Hey guys, what is going on? So I wanted to talk about a couple of variables that I think are really important for putting on muscle tissue when you are trying to build muscle in a bulk, and their relationship with body fat percentage. Obviously, you're manipulating your body fat percentage as you're bulking up, you're gaining more fat, and therefore these are important things to keep in mind. So one is going to be your testosterone levels, and two is going to be your insulin sensitivity. And I think a lot of people overemphasize testosterone while it is important, and I definitely recommend trying to keep your testosterone high, potentially supplementing with some things if you have some, cracks in your nutrition from a micronutrient perspective, or maybe even taking herbal supplements to help boost your testosterone. For the most part, if you are in this environment where you are working out, you are at a good body fat percentage, you're eating healthy in general, and you're eating whole foods, you're getting good sleep, all those things, if that's happening, you probably have pretty good testosterone. You probably don't need something like that. However, when you are getting in these higher body fat percentage ranges, or potentially if you're, getting in the low body fat percentage range, that can mess with your testosterone to a big enough degree that you actually, aren't motivated to go to the gym. You don't have that aggression. You don't work hard enough to have the stimulus for your muscles to grow. And it doesn't mean that you need crazy testosterone to grow, but it's a very holistic approach. All the things that you do at the gym, the motivation that you have, how hard you go, I think a lot of that is controlled by testosterone. And while I don't think it improves the rate of your muscle gain if you just bump it up a little bit by that much, I think it's more of the holistic approach of having that higher testosterone. And so for me, something that I have kind of noticed is when I get at these higher body fat percentage levels, I notice some of the effects of having my testosterone be lowered. Now, I don't regularly get blood work or anything like that, so I don't know my actual levels. However, I do notice that, that general drive, motivation, aggression in the gym and everything like that does go down. However, being a higher body fat percentage is very beneficial from the perspective of, being able to push more weights, being more anabolic in general, having more calories to work with and stuff like that. However, if you start to notice that at these higher body fat percentage ranges, you're getting that drop in testosterone that's allowing you to not even take advantage of those advantages of, being in a high body fat percentage, might not be worth it. On the flip side, I think a lot of people know this in the fitness industry, but when you get stage lean, which I think is something the vast majority of us have never done, but the process of dieting is usually something that can ruin our hormone production, especially if we're cutting these fats that we need or the carbohydrates that we need to have a healthy testosterone production. The process of trying to get lean is usually pretty bad for our hormonal profile in general. Being super lean is definitely not the place that you want to be, at least for the long term when it comes to testosterone production. But again, I don't think that's really an area that a lot of people are going to face. So being in that optimal range where you are getting adequate micronutrients, adequate macronutrients, everything like that, and being in a body fat percentage range that's going to be important for you to produce an optimal amount of testosterone where you're still getting some of those benefits of having, the higher food, but then also actually having the motivation, desire to improve and push yourself in the gym. That's really what's going to move the needle more than anything. So that is more important, in my opinion, than having more food and being at a higher body fat percentage and bulking if you're just not even going to have that stimulus that you need anyway. So something that I've been keeping in mind as I have been hovering in a 20 plus body fat percentage state, I notice that I don't have that same level of testosterone. Now, again, this is not from blood work. This is just me living in my body and knowing what it's like. And so for future bulks, I'm really going to try and prioritize testosterone production. Now, one thing that I've been doing this time around to kind of mitigate that, as I've been spending quite a bit of time in a 20+% body fat range, is using Sigma, which just has quite a few different ways to improve your testosterone from a micronutrient perspective, as well as, some relatively new herbal supplements. Now, I'm sure they've been around for a while, but they've kind of come to popularity recently. So that's really been noticeable for me in those environments where I do have the higher body fat percentage. Now, when I'm leaner, I don't notice it nearly as much. But when I do feel like I have that lower testosterone, it does make a much bigger difference. Now, it's still not TRT or anything like that. It's not going to change your entire situation. But if you're just kind of having a lower body fat percentage, not because of a terrible lifestyle, but more so just like being in out of range where you really don't want to be for optimal testosterone production, something to consider. But having that higher testosterone in general, I think is really important, again, for having that drive to want to push in the gym hard enough. Because if you don't have that desire to really push yourself, you're not going to get that stimulus and you're not going to grow. So you can be in the best anabolic environment possible, but if you're not training or going hard enough, it's not going to matter. The next one is going to be insulin sensitivity. And this is one where there are quite a few ways to kind of mitigate this loss of insulin sensitivity as you get to a higher body fat percentage. However, during this bulk, I have kind of been lacking in one of them. So one of my favorite ways, probably my number one favorite way to improve my insulin sensitivity, is to go for walks after my meals, specifically my high carb meals, increase nutrient partitioning, and just have that general effect of being able to utilize that glucose a little bit more. However, I live in Minnesota, it's super cold. It's like ice everywhere out there. They don't salt the roads anymore. The sidewalks are death traps. So I don't really go out there very much. And so I haven't been getting my walks in. And I really noticed that. I really noticed that I don't have that insulin sensitivity that I used to. And obviously I was leaner back when it was warmer, but not by a huge amount. But getting those walks in is really, really important. Now, one way to mitigate this is to take a glucose disposal agent. So I take the one from Gorilla. However, I've tried multiple and they all work. So, depending on which one you want to get. However, that's not going to move the needle as much, in my opinion, as doing the 10-minute walks. However, that's like one, a 30-minute time commitment if you do 3 a day, which is usually what I would do. And 2, it can just, again, in the winter, it can be difficult to do. But if you have the opportunity or the willpower to do those, I think that is bar none the best way to improve your insulin sensitivity as you are gaining weight. But if you can't do that, or if you want even more insulin sensitivity, I think taking the glucose disposal agent is going to be beneficial. But overall, being leaner is going to be a great way to have higher insulin sensitivity. So if you're not doing those walks, if you're not taking a glucose disposal agent, but you're lean, you're probably just going to be fine in terms of insulin sensitivity. Another way that you can increase it, and this is the goal that we're trying to achieve if you're watching this video, most likely, is to gain more muscle. So having more muscle mass is going to allow you to have higher insulin sensitivity. And so for somebody like myself who has a lot of fat on me, as I'm over 20% body fat, but I've also accumulated a lot of muscle tissue, I find that my insulin sensitivity is pretty good until I get like 20+% body fat. Usually that's kind of the cutoff, 20%. If I'm not doing my 10-minute walks, that's kind of where it starts to become a problem. So those are going to be things that I track more closely in my next bulk, and I'm probably going to take my next bulk slower because I do think that I notice that my testosterone levels are, at least in terms of my perception of my testosterone, my general like aggressiveness and just feeling like I have testosterone. I don't actually, again, measure these via blood tests. I feel the best when I'm in a 12 to 15% body fat range. That's where I feel the absolute best. So that, my theory is that my body just likes to be a little bit leaner, especially being a bigger guy. 12 to 15% is still a decent amount of fat on me, considering I'm like 270, 280 right now. But for other people, maybe that's 15 to 18%. So figure that out for yourself. But for me, I'm going to try and spend a little bit more time in that lean range for my next bulk. And again, that's obviously going to be great for insulin sensitivity as well. So that's going to be an experiment for myself. Obviously, I've had a lot of success doing the bulks where I'm going above 20% body fat. But I think the drops in testosterone and insulin sensitivity, at least my perceptions of those drops, it's hard to say exactly because I'm not monitoring these things. But during my next bulk, I do plan to start monitoring those. And it would be cool to, actually know my testosterone levels, know how those are, in terms of free testosterone and total testosterone, and how something like sigma is going to affect that. I'm very, excited to track those things in the future. I'm not doing it right now. But again, next bulk, I'm probably going to get on that. That's going to be my goal, and just stay in a leaner state and see how I can keep everything optimized for a larger duration of my bulk. So if you're not keeping those things in mind, I think it's definitely worth doing if you want to have, again, overall, I think the number one way to grow despite insulin sensitivity and testosterone and all this stuff is to have a really good workout. And having high insulin sensitivity is going to probably allow you to utilize the carbohydrates and get the best workout. Having that aggression from having the high testosterone and really being motivated to go to the gym, like providing your body with the strongest stimulus to grow, that, in my opinion, is the number one way to actually grow muscle. Testosterone, insulin sensitivity, protein, sleep, sure, all those things are important to a certain degree, but really getting that stimulus, I think that's the main thing. So that's really what I'm going to focus on for my next bulk, as opposed to just pushing the calories nonstop. And I'll probably bulk for like 2 years in that fashion. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, that's all I got to say about that. I'll keep you updated, and I'll talk to you soon.